something that the sequence that you want to talk about in, well, what got me interested in making guitars was my son-in-law. That's how I started making guitars. My son-in-law plays guitar, and I've been doing woodworking since I was that high, like everybody else probably, and never did a guitar. Doesn't say you can't do it. So he has 2 guitars right now that I made for him. My daughter has 2 guitars that I made for her. My other daughter has a guitar. Her husband has a guitar. So, and they're all different. Except for the first 2 I made them out of Jatoba. Okay, which is
Just turn it on.
Alright. Which is very dense, and this is the type of wood you want to get, a real dense wood to get a good sustainability and tone. Electronics do a lot, but the wood is what makes it. And you get really down to it. So, while he's getting the stuff, this was the first template and jig that I made for the bass guitar for my daughter, using double stick tape, and I really didn't like doing it with double stick tape. So a lot of people use double stick tape. I had 3/4 inch thick jigs, templates. I use 1/2 inch because of the lightweight, cost effectiveness for me, because if you don't like what you want, I just throw it out. I don't play around with it. Yeah, okay. Any questions so far? I don't think you have any questions, really. Or do you?
Are all your guitars solid bodies?
Solid. And flat tops. Cost effective, if you want to do it cost effectively, I do a flat top. I don't do a arch. It's not cost effective. I also don't have a steamer, so I won't veneer them. That's why I use Go Select Wood and get the proper wood.
I have a question. Can you tell us how you made that template, or did you make that?
I made it.
Okay.
I made it out of a scrap piece of plywood.
Did you use a template to make that template, or did you just design that yourself?
Well, that's where
I had no idea which one was your notes.
the notes are there.
Oh, well, card drives real nice.
All right. What I started out with, when I made that, there's nothing but a bunch of circles to the figure 8 that I wanted to get, and the equipment that I could use with it. Okay? So you have a lot of different figures, numbers on it, so when you get what you want, then you make another template. This one I did is for a Telecaster style. Okay.
Play the camera.
But if you look at the back side, that's where I started. You make a lot of lines and you do a lot of erasing. So when you get that done, then I have what I need, then I go ahead and make the template. And this actually is not done yet. I still have to add more information in. Here is this is the new design that I created. Alright? And it's a BW style. That's what I have. I have my name stickers. It's a BW that goes on with Black Widow because it's different colors, red and black. This is Telecaster style. Telecaster, excuse me, this is Stratocaster style. The first one was Telecaster. They are patented by Fender. So you can't call it a Stratocaster, a Strat, but it's a style. And it's not exactly the same size either. So there's differences, and then they can't say anything. This is a Les Paul style made by Gibson that was designed by Les Paul himself, and Gibson made it for him. Okay. This is the bass Black Widow, and it's a semi-hollow. It's not hollow, completely hollow, it's semi-hollow for weight distribution for my daughter. And she lets nobody play it. Unless she's really sick, then they have to play it. She goes to church. So these are just some of them that I do. And when you deal with a client, you have them bring you some of the ideas they want to incorporate. And the equipment that you have, your planers, joiners, table saw, minute sander, in other words, surface. They used to call minute sanders, but it's a surface sander. I didn't have one of those, so I had to do it all by orbital sander until I finally got one. But cost effective, if you don't have all the equipment, you just have to figure out what pieces of equipment that you're going to use to make this. If you have a lot of equipment, then you're good to go. But none of this is made until the client has said what they want. Pickups, the electronics, so forth, they have to decide. There's 3 manufacturers that make the electronics. They just put this different names on them. When they put the different name on it, then they can charge a different price for the same electronic. So, the woods that I use are alder, that gives you a real good tone. Not as good as mahogany. But it's very dense. So is mahogany. Maple. You can get hard and soft. Ash. Basswood is the kind you find in your $59 guitar that you get at the Guitar Center, or $100 one, because that's what it is. It's very cheap. The screws don't hold. Put them in, and they'll strip out real quick. And this is what you get from a lot of the manufacturers is basswood now. It's the cheapest wood around. They can mass produce them at that. So what happens is I don't like to use basswood. It's very, you have to paint that. With other good woods, you don't have to paint them. So I don't use bass. I use alder, ash, mahogany, maple, black walnut, figured maple. They want figured maple, and that's very hard. If I have some left, then I have to move on to the other body of the maple.
What about oak?
Oak, very hard wood, very porous, no density in it at all. So it's not it's a very terrible wood for using on guitars.
taking your extra time.
Just don't use all the gas up, it's going. Could you have a hamburger, please? I appreciate that, thank you. Yes.
When you decide on your pickups and stuff like that, how do you know what to mill out into wood for that pickup? Does it come with the pickup or with a template, or
No,
you just have to kind
you
of...
just have to measure,
Go around
and
it.
you have to go around, and you have to decide how much you want, at least a 1/16 of an inch space all the way around.
So that it fits in easily.
So when you get down to it, if you make one crooked, it needs to be straight compared to the strings. I'll explain that in a little bit. You have to be very careful, and that's why you'll find what I use for templates now. I like to use maple, okay? Or birch. Birch is very good because it's readily available. It's not too expensive. I use 1/4 inch thick. Once I've done the paperwork, then I'll go ahead and start making the design that I want onto a template. And I cut them out, sand them down, move it around, get the exact shape that you want. Thank you.
Do you actually buy the pickups or whatever, and
Yes.
trace around them? Is that what you do?
Yeah, this is a terrible picture. Don't get a picture of this one. This is the first one I did. This is the terriblest one. This is a piece of, when I moved into where I live, to my house, this was a junk piece that they threw out when they were building the houses. So I made it out of this. So don't take pictures of that. So
The actual guitar itself, I mean, in relatively, how thick is it?
that again too is up to you.
Okay, but I'm saying in generality, I'm just...
Generality, Fender has come up and they've made it to where it's 1.5 inches. You can get a thin line Telecaster, which is almost, it's 1 inch. Les Paul, Gibson manufactured, is 1 3/4 inches. Okay? You can go up thicker, but you got to remember, that's a lot of weight on there if you're using mahogany. Les Paul came out and said, I want to make it lighter, but I want it made out of mahogany. So what he did was, he took the mahogany, sandwiched a piece of maple onto it. That reduced a lot of the weight, because they're up there playing. If you don't see them hanging like this, it's not that heavy. So you'll see them when you go to a concert, or if you see them on TV, they're switching off guitars. It gives them a break, get the muscles back together. So you want to make it as light as possible. Sometimes you can't.
I know my son, he has a Les Paul, and he plays it very rarely. It is heavy, but the sustain on them is, I think that's where you get the sustain,
Well,
which means it holds a note for a long period of time.
Well, Jitoba actually holds the note even longer.
Yeah. What's that?
Jitoba.
Yeah, yeah,
But that weighs a ton.
yeah.
And it's really hard to work with. Easy to finish, but when you want to use your tools, make sure you got a good lot replacement.
Do you normally use proprietary pickups, or do you buy like humbuckins or something like that Gibson uses, or?
Yeah. Yeah. You can buy them. The company I deal with, I go through Gwinnett Discount Music, because if I went through a dealer, I could buy bulk at a cheaper rate. But I'll leave these out here because he can order them, I get them through the company, and he gives me a 40% discount of what he has to pay for it from his normal markup. And so he's still making money, but he's not making a whole lot. But they're not cheap. So when you start buying things in the electronics part, it's close to $600. But if you're Gibson, Fender, Yamaha, they have so much done, they get it for pennies, so they can do it. Gibson and Fender pulled a lot of their stuff from China over the years because it really wasn't worth having them make it in China. Came back and they couldn't sell it, and it became garbage to them. It was just a burden to them. So now they're back here in the States where you have better quality. Yes?
Did I just misunderstand you, or did you just say that the electronics are about $600
Yes.
for one guitar?
Yes.
Wow.
Well, that's the electronics, the pickups, the wiring, the jacks, everything you want is around $600.
Is
And
that
if
the
you want,
retail price?
excuse me,
Is that the retail price or discounted?
that's discounted. But if you're going to make a mass amount, then you would go through one of the distributors, you get 20 pickups, 30 pickups at a decent rate, a lot cheaper rate. So, well, an acoustical, you have a lot of additional things that you have to do, which with solid body you don't. So, here's another. This was the first one of the Black Widow. Okay. This is the second one. And if you compare them, it's a little bit different. There's angles a little bit different. I'm going to use a pit guard. It's going to take 2 pickups. It's like the Fender's Big Apple. Okay? And if you put them one on top of the other,
Angle it towards the camera.
you'll see that they're different. They're different shapes. If you have to look on both sides. They're different shapes. Shapes just been moved around. Still the same style. Okay. This is the Telecaster template. Alright. And what I do is once I get the template the way I want it, then I put down, start putting down my figures of what each portion of the pockets I'm going to be drawing out, what I'm going to use. I can show, and I've only just started on this one. How deep, what's the radius on the equipment. Now this is a Les Paul style. Okay. This is made out of pine, which is very soft, so I'm not too happy with it. But it still makes the Les Paul that I wanted. If you see all the angles, you'll also see where I need to drill holes, router out pockets. Now with this one, you also have to do it on the back side because it's a back cut and a front cut on a lot of the equipment. 4 knobs go in here, but they have to be cut in the front. So you have to do that. You have to go in the right sequence, otherwise you'll be having a lot of mistakes. And mahogany is not cheap. This was the Stratocaster style that I made. If you can see, it's got a lot of different figures on it, but it also has a setup for 3 pickups, which was standard. You can make them, your pockets, fit the pickups, Or you can make them so you can add different pickups, but you never see the cutouts. So you have to think outside the box with your client. Because if you don't, they may want to change it. The pickup that they want to put in is a little bit different in size and it doesn't fit, so then they have to do a lot of rework. What I try to do is I try to do a little bit more for it, so if they want to make a change to it, change a pickup, different style, different size, it's all there. They don't have to do anything, just put it in. Well, get past the woods. I have a warm-off direct. You can go on the website and you can see what kind of woods. They sell bodies, just bodies alone, and they sell all the information that you'd like. You can get out of Warmoth. Excuse me?
What was that again?
Warmoth. W-A-R-M-O-T-H. Direct. You can go actually on Fender's website, Gibson's website. You can actually print out some of their prior designs and what goes into it. All the parts, a parts list, what the design looks like. That's exactly what I did, because if you have to wire all your electronics up, you don't want to wire them incorrectly. You wire them incorrectly and it's not going to work. So you have to start from somewhere, and it's just like everybody else. Fender started off with Gibson's. Somebody had to start, then everybody takes from there. And that's what I ended up. Yes?
The solid bodies that you start with before you get to the template, do you laminate that?
No.
You don't? It's just a solid board.
Solid. Okay.
You get about halfway through and that thing can come back to look at you, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's true. If you go on the computer for Wikipedia, they have a little history of guitars. So if you'd like to read about guitars, how they started, what they look like, and that's why you see most guitars, even some of the weird shapes, they're all really a figure 8 that came by. It was something that they went through.
Does the different styles have different tonal values or tonal responses?
No. Well, the different woods do. Okay? Mahogany has a very warm tone. If you had a scale of 1 to 10, it would probably be 3. It's a nice warm tone. If you took alder, it would be probably a 5. So it's still warm, but it's in between. Maple is about an 8, which is a bright tone, real pricky tone. So you have to decide what kind of wood you want. Jatoba is probably a 1. It's very dense, heavy, got a real warm tone and sustainability to it. So each different wood has a different amount of tone to it. So the vibrations in it, when you put your equipment in, your finishes on, has to vibrate. Otherwise you get nothing.
I have a question.
Yes.
The string vibrating, the pickup is taking that vibration, making an electrical signal, right?
Right.
Goes to your amplifier. So how does wood change the
Wood
sound?
vibrate.
That's what I'm missing.
Okay. Wood also has, when the electronics are vibrating, the wood is also vibrating.
Right.
It's and it's adding a tone to it. All right?
So the pickup takes that.
From the wood. With the semi-hollow, my daughter's bass guitar, she has dual humbucker pickups for a bass, which are actually 4 pickups, but you only see 2. right? Hers is semi-hollow. When she strikes the string in specific spots along the string, she can make a different tone. Same sound, different sound. She has a real bright sound if she goes up high. She has a real deep sound if she goes low, and if she's in the middle, she gets semi-echo because that's where it's hollow. So it changes it, even though the electronics, it all works together. Yes?
Are you using the same material for the neck that you use for the body?
Maple. I don't make necks. It's not cost effective for me if you want to do it. A lot of companies sell necks. You can buy, there's a company down in Texas, and they sell seconds. All right? But they normally would not, they don't get rid of it, they just sell it as a second. It's a lot cheaper. Okay? This is a mahogany neck, but it's a second. All right? Made for Gibson, but they rejected it for one thing or another, and it's got a dent. I forget where the dent is. Oh.
Can't you find it?
No, I started taking the dent out. Okay? There was a dent here, and now I use it as a template. But if you have a dent that's so bad, you can steam it. As long as you take the finish off, go back down to bare wood, and it'll take you a while, but you use your iron and hot water and steam it. You can draw the wood fibers back up to where you want them, put a new finish back on. So this one is now a template. I draw on this how I want. So that's. What do those cost? Excuse me?
What do those cost?
This one was, I think, $29.
Including the frets and everything?
Yeah, this was normally what you would get for a Gibson. Okay? $29, and then you pay for the shipping. It's a company down in Texas. I'm not sure.
And you have to put the truss rod in it.
Excuse me?
You have to put the truss rod in it yourself.
No, it's already done.
It's already done.
Now, how much would that be if you went to a place that wasn't the seconds?
Wasn't the second? You're talking $150, $160. Sometimes you go up to $400, depending on what you want out of it. The equipment, if you make it yourself, it's a process. So that's why it's not cost effective. Because unless you're making them for a company and you're mass producing them. All right? Other companies will buy them from you.
Does the neck have nothing to do with the tone?
With the truss rod in here, they went without a truss rod when they first started making these. And you had a neck that looked like so. All right? It does carry tone. Because it's a good wood. It's not oak. But the thing of it is, it carries a tone, but with the truss rod in there, that's how they stabilize it at first. You have a total of 600 pounds of pressure from those strings on this neck. It doesn't look like it, doesn't feel like it when you get done, but it's been calculated at 600 pounds. So that's a lot of weight. So when you're not using it, you always back off a couple turns.
How does that hook into the body?
Okay. Let's see. Once you've gone and made it, okay, I'll get with that in a minute. Once you've made, yes.
The body, is it one solid piece of wood or is it two narrower pieces glued up?
It depends on you. All right? The wood that you're using, alder, you don't want to glue up 3 or 4 boards. Normally you do 2. That's a lot of glue up, because it will create a different tone with the glue in there. It's not going to break there, but I usually use 2 boards. Okay? The less you have to glue up, the better off you are.
Does it matter where you put the seam? I mean, do you put it down the center of the guitar or towards the edge?
Well, when you have the neck going into that area where it's seamed together, now you have screws that are in both boards, so the neck is not going to yank on one side or the other. Okay? But you can make it a solid, you can make it a through body neck, which means it goes from the head of the guitar, which is the top part, all the way to the bottom of the guitar. That's a through body. And then all you're putting on is wings, the rest of it. Okay.
If you had just your template there,
Yeah.
you mounted your pickups on it and all the electronics on that, and then didn't have anything more, you'd get still get a certain sound from the strings.
Oh, yes.
But then if you put a body on it, it would modify that sound, is that correct?
Yes. That's where you have your adjustment. That's where you have knobs for tone. You can adjust the tone on it. Okay? And sound, tone, volume, which pickup you're going to go to. I'll show you that in a minute. Yes.
Have you done any neck throughs?
No. I'm not going to build a neck. So a neck through goes from the headstock all the way to the base of the body.
Right, but you
It
can
goes
buy it.
through, and you're getting like a 4x4, and you're cutting it all down.
Right. You can buy those.
Yeah,
Neck through necks and add to it.
right. But they get awful expensive.
Yeah, they do.
Okay? All right. Yes.
What about, I can understand the tone, the wood, the thickness,
Right.
the curvature. I can understand all of that. I'm not musical enough to know if you can compensate for whatever tone that the wood may produce. Can you compensate
Yes.
by tightening the strings, loosening the strings?
Well, your
I
strings...
guess my question is, can you make all guitars sound exactly alike, however they're built?
No.
You cannot tone it down or raise it up?
Well, you can get them close. When they mass produce them, they run them through a CNC, quick sand, paint them, slap them together. When they're all done, they have to go through, and as long as you get the right key on the string, you could take 2 guitars with the same by the same person, same amount. The pickups themselves are all wound the same. There's going to be a slight difference, no matter what. And that's where you make your adjustments on your tone, the volume, which pickup you're going to use. If you're going to use all 3, you're going to use 2 of them, you're going to use only 1. Okay? So that's where you have to make your adjustments while you're playing. So each guitar, I got 2 guitars up here, 2 different styles, 2 different woods, made by the same, and you'll find out that there's difference in sound at all times. That's what makes them unique. But you can make it change. You can make it to where it's almost exactly the same as the other. If you look, Santana, he has more than 1 guitar. He plays a musical tune, 1 song, and then he might switch to another guitar. It's all set up, and the setup is different. And he plays another song, and you'll notice the difference in tones. But he could go and reset that one up on the same guitar. But when they get older, when they get well-known like that, they have more than one. They have 3 or 4 of them, 5 of them. Sometimes they have a couple dozen of them. And they get them set up the way they want it for a particular song that they're going to do. This is the ash piece, all right? And if you look at it, it's only 2 pieces. Okay? And you don't want the grain, it's just like anything else. You want the grain to be opposite of what you're doing. But for the purpose of this guitar that I'm making, I want to show the grain. This is the backside though. The backside doesn't show up what I want. The front side, you have a lot of striations on the front, which is like the back, similar, okay? But it's all going to be clear. So all you're going to see is the wood. It's going to show the beauty of the wood. Ash is very heavy. It started out at 2 inches. I buy it in rough cut. So it's never been planed or anything, and you have to sit there and to get one board that you're satisfied with, and it takes a while when you're selecting it. You go through a lot of wood to find the one that you want. You don't want any knots. You want it as clean as possible. Even if it's basswood, you don't want knots. You want it clean. Knots will create problems down the road. It'll give it a different tone, and then after a while they come loose. So if you get a straight grain or a good figure like this one, that shows off the beauty of the wood. You can just paint it. And that's the big problem, is a lot of people don't paint very well. I hate painting, but I paint. But this way, I'm going to pass this around. If you want to know, because when you look at it, you're going to take about 6 inches off the top here, and very little. This is exactly what I'm going to be taking off. You want to look at it. But don't forget, now those pockets have got to be routed out. And I use a drill press first, down to where I can use the router. I don't use the router that much. And if you use your drill press, Boston bits, red point bits, you get them close, you get them a lot of the waste taken out.
Do you do the internal cutting before the outside?
Yes. That's always last. You want to get once you get the jigs and templates made, when I did the template for the Stratocaster, this is now the jig that I use. It's a 2-piece, front and back, because you have to cut on both sides of the wood. What I've done is I put blocks on it, so when you put them in, you're sandwiching your wood in between the two. You screw them down in places that it's not going to show, because it's going to be waste, and everything lines up. You have a CNC, it's a little bit different. They have it all computerized, the board goes through, CNC takes care of it, front side, CNC takes care of it on the back side. It's all computerized. This way, I found, for me, works best. All right?
I'm sorry, I was going to ask, did you check your moisture content?
You want at least 6%. And where I get the lumber, if it hasn't been like it is the last couple of days, it's between 5 and 7%. So you try to get 6%. And then you acclimate it into your shop. And then before you start working on it, And then when you plane it down, you want to oversize it, let it acclimate again, then finish planing to where you're going to go to, because you have to still sand it, and then you also have to put a finish on it, which also adds to the weight, adds to the thickness. So everything you have to take into consideration. Now the Les Paul style is a little bit different, because you have to have a front cut and a back cut. This is the front cut, but if you notice, a lot of the figures for where these are to be placed. This is, if you don't do that, then you're going to have a hard time trying to remember which one you, how deep, how shallow. Now this is oak plywood, and if you notice, it chips off real easy. So that's why I don't like using oak. Like birch is the best for that. This is the back plate for the Les Paul. This is so I can make additional holes in front and back. So when they screw together, you can see it in the front, minus cobwebs. And then if you turn it around, you see the difference in size. So you have to make sure, because you got to put covers in, so you have to make space for them. On the Les Paul style, the neck itself has a 1 degree, if you're making a flat top, a 1 degree taper that you have to cut into the body itself. So to do that, I made a little jig that when I put it under the Les Paul, it will screw right into it. It also gives you the angle where the neck will sit in the pocket. With the fender style, it's just a straight cut. So you're cutting a 1, and if you have a arch top, if you go and do an arch, you're looking at 1.5 degrees. So you have to make up a 1.5 degree jig. So that takes a little bit of time. I made other templates to cut out the other parts. And you do it all on paper first, because then you don't waste when you get done. Because all this stuff will fit. And now you've gone through and you've made all the parts that you need. Now you have to do your sanding, finish up the finish on the wood. Ash, when you sand ash, I know you know it's going to start rippling on you, because all the sapwood, if you have sapwood like that one has, it's going to be very hard to sand. So you just have to take your time to get it to the smoothness that you want. Once you've done that, you're going to have to fill all the grain in. So I use a grain filler. And Masters is a good grain filler. You want it, when you get it, it's real thick like peanut butter, and you will 25% ratio of thinner mineral spirits will make it smoother and easier to spread, and it'll dry up real quick, because mineral spirits just evaporates on there. So when you do it 2 or 3 times using your burlap to smooth it out, sand it down, put on another layer of grain filler, smooth that out, burlap, sand it back down till you get it the way you want it. Some people, I made a guitar for one guy, and he wanted to see how the green and how it moved, so I didn't put any filler in. That's where you get all this real nice smooth. You still have to put the finish on, but you can see it. Yes?
When you put the filler on, do you put it on, is it consistency such that you put it on with a cutting knife or a brush or?
Well, cost effectiveness, I'm a cheap guy, okay? I use these plastic bowls, okay? I put plastic spoons because if you don't get it off there, it's going to harden up on you and you'll never get it off. So a plastic spoon, you spend, what, $2 for 40-some, 50-some spoons, so you're not losing anything. When you put the filler in and use the mineral spirits, you get it all stirred up. I use, instead of that, I use a bondo blade, piece of plastic, and I swirl it on to the foot. Okay? If you swirl it, if you go and put it on with the grain, you're not getting anything in the grain. Because you're looking at a grain filler, so you have to go across. So I swirl it back and forth. It will start drying on you right away. So you have to do it 2 or 3 times. And that's why I use the 25% reduction. Quicker time on it. Use the burlap. Within about 15 minutes, you can use burlap across the grain to take a lot of the excess that you got on there. Then you have to let it dry, cure up real good, sand it down. Just do it all over again until you got it to the consistency of what you want, or what you think the client will need.
What will that guitar weigh when you get through it?
About 5 pounds altogether, between 4 and 5 pounds. Because once you start cutting all the pockets out, you're going to lose a lot of the weight. Of course, now you remember it's going to be a lot smaller than what you see. It's not that big on your thumb. It's going to be on this side. Okay. So it will get lighter, but it's about 4 to 5 pounds. And you want to try and keep it as lightweight as possible. Because you're up there. If you're playing it, you're gonna feel the weight of that after a few songs. Okay. You can buy kits, or you can buy it in pieces. If you don't do any electronics, you can buy a kit. And this is a pit guard, which will hold 3 pickups, switches, knobs, everything you need. You can buy this for $16. You can buy it all wired for $60. 60. If you're not worried about doing it. And when you start doing something like that, you can do a lot more. $60 to $90. If you want, when I made my son-in-law, he had to have his Stratocaster had to have all Fender pickups, all Fender everything. So that's where it comes into a lot of money. Okay.
You talked about doing the top plate and the neck. What do you do about the hollow part? How you accomplish your neck?
Well, when you once you've cut this all out on the body of the wood, this is what I'm using. I use a router and a drill press. All right. I'll drill down a specific depth, take out most of the waste and all around the whole areas that I need to do. Then I'll use a router to finish it up, smooth all the lines up, and then I'll cut out.
Cut the rest of it out to the design?
This part?
No,
The outside?
my concept is a guitar's got a hollow area inside of it.
Yeah, these will be hollow.
Well, but that's just, what about the rest of it?
Solid wood.
He's confusing an acoustic with electric.
Oh, no, this is electric, not acoustic. Acoustic, there's a lot more. Yeah. So when you really come right down to it, there is a lot of work. You can put out a body a day if you wanted. After you've glued up your blanks, cut your blanks to size, normally depending on how many you want to make. But the time that you take in planning prior to, all the figures that you're going to make out of it, what kind of figure will it have, what's the design going to be. That's where the more work is really, it's all what am I putting into it? What kind of pickups do I want to use? What kind of jacks? What potentiometers? What kind of tone is it going to give? What kind of neck am I going to add to it? All that goes into it, and that's what takes the time.
You mentioned that the denser wood is the best choice to make the guitar get the sound. And weight being a concern, is it a disadvantage the more you hollow out of the denser wood to try and make the guitar lighter to affect the tone? Or is the tone better with the more mass that you can keep in the body?
The tone, well, with the hollowing out, it gives you an echo. It now becomes acoustic also. Okay, it will give you that acoustic effect at certain times. Where the solid body is solid, it doesn't give you that acoustic. Now they have amplifiers now that the musicians are so particular about the amplifier that they want to use. They don't care. Some of them can take a $59 guitar or a plywood guitar and make it sound like a Gibson. That's a $3,000 or a $10,000 guitar. But that's only the electronics that's doing it. The body doesn't look very good. It doesn't have a good quality to it. Okay? Yes?
Are the pickups adjustable for tone?
Excuse me?
Is there any adjustment in the pickups itself?
Yes. No, not on the pickup. No, you have a tone knob. You have a volume knob.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can adjust those for what you want. Going 1 to 10.
Pickups where you get different tones out of different pickups, or you're there adjusting the...
Yeah. Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about the finish you put on?
Yeah. Okay, what I use is a polyurethane. Okay? I don't like lacquer that much. I'll use lacquer if that's what they want. But I would prefer a polyurethane. Polyurethane still gives you the durability, but it's still a little bit more flexible. Now the polyurethane I use is automotive. Alright? So there is a drying time of 5 minutes compared to lacquer of 25 minutes. The smell is not very bad. You must use a respirator and you spray it on. You're not going to brush this on. You have to spray it on. You can put on 2 coats within 30 minutes. Put on the first coat, within another 15 minutes, you put on another coat, you're done with 2 coats of finish before you even start sanding, and you let it dry for 24 hours. It'll cure up. Then you sand it down. If you like what you have on the finish, you don't even have to sand it on a clear coat.
Are you using just a stain on the wood, or?
Well, you use stain, you can use paint, you can use dye. You know, dye is penetrating the wood real good. It's going to be there for a long time. Stain is not. Stain you can sand off. So if you don't like the color of it, you can always sand it off if it's not penetrated too much. But with the wood filler, grain filler in, not wood filler, but grain filler, it'll take the stain, it'll also take the dye. Excuse me. And yes?
How do you put the neck, or the neck to the body?
Okay. Use this one. When you make up the jig, you know it's going to be so high. So if you take your template and put it there, it's going to go all the way through. All right? So now, once you get this set up on your template for the neck, then you turn around and do it on your jig. And before you cut anything, you can always check it to a point. I leave a spot here because I hang them on the wall. So, yeah, it fits. That's good enough. You do a little bit of sanding after that.
That's going to adjust the angle of the neck.
Right. Well, with the Les Paul style, you have a 1 degree taper. So the neck will actually, instead of being straight, like so, it will actually be on an angle like this.
Be a negative 1 degree.
Right. Now, if you have an arch body, it's usually 1.5 degrees.
So then how do you attach it?
Excuse me?
So how do you attach it?
Screws?
Come up from behind?
Come up from behind.
What kind of glue do you use when you're putting those boards together?
I use Type-On. Yeah. Gorilla Glue, not too good, because it'll expand on you, and you really don't want that. But you can use other glues. Use a dark color glue for the darker colored woods, light colored glue. If you want to use Elmer's glue, depends on what you're comfortable with, how long it's going to last. I found that Type-On is a very good glue. You can get it in any state, and it works real well. You have a good curing time. I usually once I do it, I glue it up and I let it set up for 24 hours. You're always safe that way. Yes?
Is it true, get back to the finish part, that the thinner the finish on the guitar, the better the sound of the guitar? As long as you get the look that you want.
Yeah, and it depends on how many coats. You want to put a thin coat on. It will cure faster, because if you put a thick coat on, you have to wait until it cures. If you don't, you're going to end up with orange peel, little bubbles, and that's a lot of sanding. So you want to put a thin coat on. That way, it's cured. If you don't need to sand it, put another thin coat on. And it depends on how high gloss you want, or if you don't want a high gloss. Most of the guitars you see are high gloss, but they do make them so they're natural. They have a finish on them, but they look like they're satin. But they do have a finish on them. Yes.
What kind of mahogany do you use? Is there a certain kind that sounds better?
Red mahogany I found sounds really good. It's your personal taste. But if you use a white mahogany, that's okay. But you don't see, that's usually painted. And white mahogany is not as cost effective either. If you had to replace it again.
On the tone woods you were talking about before, the mahogany is very easy wood to work with, and it gives you a tone now.
So is alder.
Right, but this is having to do with tone. I know on acoustic guitar, supposedly the ideal wood to use is Brazilian rosewood, which I know is in short supply. It's very expensive.
You can make solid bodies out of it.
Tell me how much better it would sound if you made a solid body out of Brazilian rosewood as opposed to a mahogany, or the different sound maybe. Would it be that much different?
That would be up to the individual. I had a client wanted a rosewood body guitar with ebony. And I told him how much it would cost. He didn't want it anymore. That was not the work. That was just fine. That was just to get the material. You can. If you have a flat body and you do a lot of lamination, you can put rosewood. You get the laminate, the veneers. You search around, and they got a lot of veneers, different colors, different everything. It's all done for you. So if you want to veneer something, then you got it what the client wants, close to what he wants.
A veneer's not going to give you the tone that is solid all the way through, but I know it's going to cost you a small fortune.
Yeah. So you have to be. My son-in-law wanted black walnut. That's expense. Black walnut's more expensive than ash, but the tone that they have are very similar. So I laminated 2/4-inch pieces, top and the front and back, onto a blank of ash, and he was real happy with it.
So ash and walnut are similar.
Well, if you take the tone of ash, which is about a 7 from one, and black walnut is about an 8. So they're fairly close. You can put them together.
Well, the black walnut and mahogany are similar is workability.
Not by tone.
No, not by tone, but as far as working it, being able to stand it.
Well, that's why you want to use a good hard wood. You also can use poplar. You're not going to leave it plain. You're probably going to end up painting it. But they still make guitars out of poplar. I'm sorry, but I get a sore throat so if I don't sound too good. Poplar is a lot cheaper, but it's a lot better than basswood. Basswood, you put a screw in it, you can take the screw out and put the screw in and it's stripped. Okay, so you got to be very careful with that. So that's where you have to select the wood that you want. If you want a nice warm tone, a mellow tone, or do you want something real bright and cheery? That's how you buy the wood. You suggest to the client. If they want heavy metal, or I don't know, do they do heavy metal anymore? I don't know. Well, they're not using mahogany because that's a nice warm, slower, what do you call it?
Resonation.
Huh?
Resonation.
Like Johnny Cash. You know, the country songs. Country songs?
Mellow.
Right. It gives you a nice mellow tone, which makes it really beautiful. Okay. But if you're going to real rock and roll, you don't want to use mahogany because it's too mellow. You want a nice brighter tone that's going to pop when you start playing.
What does one of your finished guitars sell for?
$19.95. That's what it starts with. And that's the guitar, gig bag, a couple items.
Is that for like a mahogany or is that for a cheaper wood?
Show us the guitars. Dave, if you do your sandwich that you were talking about, where you take two nice woods and put maple or something in the middle,
right.
Could you hollow out that middle one to make it a little lighter?
Sure.
Would that affect it very much in sound?
It'll give you a different tone. All right.
It probably sound more like acoustic electric, where they're semi-hollow body. Right?
Like the hollow body, semi-hollow that I have, and my daughter has. On this one. One This is where the pocket is. It's hollow. All the rest is solid. And this is the pocket for here. Okay?
How much weight did that eliminate?
It was made out of alder, and my daughter my oldest daughter has a Stratocaster style made out of alder that's less than 1.5 inches in thickness, smaller in size. Okay. All right. You look at it, it's smaller in size because this is the actual size of it, and it weighs more than this one. Okay. It does take a lot of the weight out. So when you come right down to it, it's how you look at it and what you want to do and what your client wants. You try to please the client. Because if they're not happy, then you're going to end up with a guitar. And if you can't play guitar, it's going to sit there. Okay. Now, what I'm going to show you, okay, a couple samples, a couple guitars. And the reason why I say that is because I made the mistake, which I won't do it again, of not saying, well, you have to put something down. Okay? So, let me get this out of the way.
Can you tell us the name of the place where you get the seconds and inches? Do you know?
Let's see.
You have
Put that in here? I'm afraid I didn't put that. If you go in there and you go on the internet and you say guitar parts, you're going to find a whole bunch of people that sell the stuff. It's Guitars USA down in Texas. Yeah. And they have kits, Stratocaster, Les Paul, but these are kits. And it's basswood. The cheapest electronics probably cost them $10 for the electronics. So I don't put the most expensive electronics in my guitars, but I don't put the cheapest either. Mine's the middle of the road, a little bit more on me than what you would normally get. Okay. Okay. Now this is a little bit more expensive because I'm using a maple neck all the way through, maple fretboards, maple neck. I'm using hot rails, which give you a lot more oomph for the dollar, as the saying goes, instead of the post and beam. Okay, so it's a little dirty.
When you say hot rails, that means the picks, or pickups on pickups, specific kind?
Yeah.
You didn't bring an amp in.
No, I didn't bring an amp because I don't play anymore. I haven't played in 40 years. So,
That's cool.
this one, you got 3 pickups, your neck, middle, and bridge. You have a 5-way switch right here. This is where Fender outbeat Gibson because you could change the switching to where you played this one, then you would play these two, play this one, play these two, or play all 3. You can turn them on and off. That's where you have to know what you're doing with the electronics and the wiring and soldering, and you do a lot of work. This is the back plate where they string in. This is that pocket you saw, it looks like a little wallet. So everything has to come to order. So I'll pass it around. Please be careful. Now that's made out of alder, and it's 1 3/4 inch thick, so it's a little bit thicker, has a deeper tone than a 1.5 inch thick.
On your finish, that's a really, really nice finish. And it's that polyurethane, automotive
It's
polyurethane.
polyurethane, but it's automotive, and so is the paint.
What brand do you use?
Well,
And do you add a flex agent to the...
do I have a what?
Do you add a flex agent?
Oh, yes. What I'll do is, let's see.
This is very, very nice.
What I'll do,
Nice work.
that's just on the...
Oh, DuPont, yes.
Well, yeah. Or Mason. Okay, that's where you have to use your activators. You gotta buy all these little pieces, and that's my log that I keep on it. It gets expensive for a couple quarts.
Oh, yeah.
If you look over to the right. Okay? Now, another style I brought in, it's got a different finish. It's also polyurethane. Okay? But, this is the one I ended up keeping because they wanted it so it wasn't a finish like that, but the finish was more on the line of the wood.
What's a guitar like I sell for?
Custom made, and this is the problem with the custom made. It's one of a kind. It's not like you buy it where they spend a couple dollars and go from there, or they can mass produce them. This is not mass produced, it's just one made. If you make another one exactly the same, it will be different. Because you're never going to have exactly the same. That's where they use CNCs. It keeps on going through and it doesn't make a mistake. Unless the computer made a mistake.
On that guitar, you got some beveled edges. You do cut all those by hand? Just sand it or carve it?
Oh, no.
Yes.
You mean here?
No, the beveled edges on the back, where it's slanted.
Oh, no. That's 17 degrees.
It's perfect 17 degrees.
Yes.
And how do you cut that?
Well, you can use, I didn't at the time have a bandsaw, but I did have an oscillating spindle sander. And that took a long time.
I guess, yeah.
I mean, this is a truss rod cover. It's a piece of plastic, this one. But my son-in-law's, who's made out of Jatoba, has a curve in it. It took 4 hours to cut a piece that size using Jatoba. You had to get it real thin, so you want it thick enough, but thin. I got it as thin as I could. Of course, it was flying everywhere. Jatoba weighs a ton, and it'd take a long time to sand. But he likes it. He uses it. He plays it. So the reason why you have on this one, if you compare that one to this one, you'll see a taper here where the neck is. Okay, a 1 degree taper. That's cut into the pocket. The pocket had to be cut that way. Your strings, normally when you do your setups, that's another thing you have to do as a guitar maker. You got to set them up so they can play them. Some people like it high. Once the customer gets the strings at the height they want them, that's what they want. You can have chatter, which means where the string is so low down, it will hit a fret and vibrate, and that's why they call it chatter. Now this is a sunburst style, so it's actually mahogany and black.
Let's try it out.
I don't have an amplifier.
I got it here, so I don't mean anybody else to hear it, I just want to hear
Okay,
it.
yeah, you can try it. If you also notice, that's got 3 pickups. This has 2. Now these are the old 50 style pickups, which they like. Instead of the newer, more modern, up-to-date, but there's a lot of manufacturers of pickups now. They got Lace out of California, has a different design. They make pickups by themselves. So, and then they started making the guitars. So, the thing of it is, strings are a personal account. In other words, the person decides what they want. If they want SITs, stay in tune, they call it stay in tune SITs, or if they want other brands, they want a Fender brand, or they want a Gibson brand. The strings are made by the same company, they're just wound maybe a little bit tighter, and they put a different name on them. So it's very personable to the artist. This is what I call, this one I'm talking about is, you had the back cut, because you have to drill holes here for the adjustment. Potentiometers. Back cut here, because you got a switch from rhythm.
I thought you said you weren't a good painter.
You said that
House.
you sound very well.
I'm not a very good house painter, I hate painting. But I made my own paint booth, so it's a lot easier. Okay? So, that's all mahogany. The neck is mahogany, the body's mahogany, and then you have the electronics. And the Stratocaster style is alder, but it's 1 3/4 inches thick, same as this one. If you look on the back of this one, you'll see rings or bushings. Well, that makes it smoother, so it's not catching on the body. But if you look at the other one, it's got a plate, a steel plate on the back. It's a chrome plate. That's what holds your necks on. Gibson, on the other hand, makes a pocket that he glues in. He ends up gluing them in. So the neck is glued in. And I'm not about to do that because I like to change things if I want to modify something.
Dave,
yes?
Since you said you do, these are one-offs, but since you have the jigs, do you make multiple at the same
Well, I only have the 1 jig of each style.
But would you make multiple bodies at the same time while you...
No, you can only make the one body.
One at a time.
Yeah. And just put the jig on another blank and put it and make another one and get 2 or 3 of them made. Yes, you can do that.
You using the biscuits when you put your pieces together?
No.
No?
On the Jatoba I did. Because I was using a belt sander to get it smoother. No, so now I don't have to.
How many do you think you've made so far total?
I've made 10.
10? Is there anybody famous out there hanging out with one?
No.
just your son-in-law and them?
Just my son-in-laws and my daughters, and my daughter lives in California and she loves it out there. And so I have another one that I'm making, plus the other style, and then I'm going to put them in the Gwinnett discount music store, because I have a contract with them, and if they sell, okay, if they don't, okay. Nothing is lost. I haven't spent $1 million. So you got to look at the cost. And if you're interested, he can help you. His name is Aubrey. He can help you on what you want to do, and he can show you what it would look like from the manufacturer, and when you make yours, and he can order parts, and he also gives you a discount. All you gotta do is mention my name if you go there. And I have some cards up here if you want to take a card, or the biggest thing I have found that I have created is that when people ask me, can you build me this? The first thing is, who's it for? Can you play? And if they can't, well, it's for my son or my daughter to play. Well, are they in the school band? Okay. No, they're going to take private lessons. Well, how old are they? You ask them all these questions because when you have a custom-made guitar, expensive, for somebody that's only going to use it for 2 weeks and say, oh, I don't want to do it anymore. So you determine that, and what you do is you tell them, the best thing to do is go to these pawn shops, if you want, get an amplifier, get a guitar, you spend $50 for the two, or whatever price is. You can buy a kit from Fender, go to Guitar Center, a couple, the bigger places, they have all these kits where you get a little tiny amplifier, and let them try it. You spend $100 compared to $1,900 is a big difference. If they like it, then you get 60% down. That buys you materials, you make it, they pay you 40% for your work. And the one thing you'll find, you lose about 40% of your wood when you're making one body out of a board. And I can make 2 bodies out of one board that I select. It's usually 8 feet long. Because it's less than 2 feet. But with all the waste you have, you might have a knot somewhere, and you don't want it to show, you might have a knot in the board, so what you do is you're cutting all that out. That's waste. But you can use it for something else if you're a woodworker.